I'm hyping myself up because if I don't, I'm going to fall asleep.
I feel that so much right now.
Yeah, hype yourself up. And it's a new year, new you, new podcast.
New me.
New you. New you.
Hello, everyone. Let's ring in the new year with a new episode of the Atcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I'm your true cooking master boy, Renu.
And I'm your Iron Staff Dumpling Master, Soup.
This week, AT stands for Absolute Territory because we'll be wrapping up the fall 2019 anime season. And we'll also be giving our hot takes for the overall 2019 anime year.
Hot takes fresh off the press.
But before we get into all that hot cooking stuff, what have you been up to?
Hello, I've been up to a lot.
Yeah, right? It's been the holidays.
Yeah, my winter holiday sort of season was very busy. Very busy. I went on a family vacation to Monterey, so we just drove down there. And we just hung out for a couple days with our cousins that we very rarely see. So, that's interesting.
That's fun.
Yeah. I slept through a lot of it, which is to be said about a lot of my vacations, even though it feels like I did a lot. I did do a lot of sleeping. But, I did a lot of, stuff. I drove up to Oregon with one of my friends, and we hung up there. We packed quite a lot into a couple days. And then we drove down, and then it was a couple days, and then it was my birthday.
Ooh.
And now I'm 23 years old. I'm the age in the Blink-182 song. Nobody likes you when you're 23.
Oh my god.
What's my age again? But more exciting, I went to go see Hamilton on my birthday because one of my friends was gracious enough to buy tickets for the day that happened to be Friday, which happened to be my birthday. And so, yeah, we went to see Hamilton, and that was a pretty good time.
That's cute.
Yeah,
How
it was
fun.
a very, very, very good show. It was interesting because we got the showing that was like three or four understudies. So half the main cast was just missing. But it was still all right. At least two of the actors were really, really, really good. And yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about the play itself. But the experience of it was very, very good. The songs are very, very catchy.
Oh, wonderful. I've always been meaning to watch it because I just really want to, but I haven't been able to.
Yeah, I will say this. I have no idea. I would be so curious to see what other performances of this look like because I don't know how other places put this thing on. But the place that I went to see it, the San Francisco Orpheum Theater, was it was really interesting because the stage has this really cool set of the stage itself has these rings that move. They spin.
Oh.
So actors can walk on them and do the walking motion, but they're staying in place because they're just keeping up with the rhythm of the thing.
Wow.
But it means that there's a lot of these really cool, essentially freeze frame shots where all of the dancers and the actors strike a pose and then it just continues to rotate. So it looks like this moving diorama. It's so cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it was some of the most marvelous stage performance and blocking that I've seen noticeably. It's so cool to look at. But yeah, that was super fun. That was probably the most notable thing that I did in the last couple of weeks.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
now I want to see it more.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I feel like that's like a thing that might be unique to like our theater.
I mean,
but
probably
I'm also not sure.
Not every theater stage has rotating platforms,
and it's probably not something that they would install just for this. Although it is Hamilton. Yeah. It's interesting because like, you know, it's like this like hip hop musical performance, but it's also about the life of founding father Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts about that, but that's not for this. Yeah, that's not for this podcast episode, I suppose. But yeah, that's more or less what I've been up to. I've been playing more Granblue recently, just because one of my friends has started playing, and there's all the like Christmas stuff that was happening and all the New Year's stuff. Like New Year's is a huge time in Granblue because they give you lots of free goodies.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know. It's good. It's good. I'm having fun with it. Which is funny though, because I paid for a Final Fantasy 14 subscription, and here I am just not using it.
What are you doing?
I would really like to. It's just there's only so much time I have in the day, and Granblue is such an efficient thing to do with my time because I can like watch videos on the side. I finally more or less caught up to my like my YouTube video backlog. So even though it, you know, kind of feels like I was all over the place during winter break, I really did apparently get a lot of relaxing done. So
Okay.
that is legitimately nice.
Yeah.
You know, you want that sometimes. But yeah, I did New Year's stuff. Like, so my family does all of the like Lunar New Year stuff that Korean families do on like regular New Year's or
Okay.
whatever, on the like, you know, calendar New Year's, just because that's when everyone tends to be free. But it's funny because it means like half the like kids that go, which is to say there's only 4 of us, but it means that half of us are like more or less like a little hungover because it's the day after New Year's. So, oh, that's right. I had my like yearly New Year's party with my friends. It was super, super fun. We had paella. We played some board games. We played some Jackbox. Very good time. Very good time. I had a decent amount to drink, but it was over the course of like 6 hours. So, you know, not too bad.
Okay.
It wasn't even that much. in over the course of 6 hours, mind you. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. What have you been up to, Renu?
I also had holiday times. I wasn't able to go home to visit family this year, so I mostly spent it with friends. I watched a bunch of movies, ate a lot of good food. We watched Pitch Perfect 2, speaking of musicals.
Nice. I don't know what to say to that.
I mean, it was fun. It was a really funny movie. I liked it.
I was gonna say Pitch Perfect 2 to me strikes me as the definition of something that is a movie. Kind of like how I felt about the Star Wars movie that just came out. It was a Star Wars movie.
I thought it was fun. I did not watch the new Star Wars, but I thought Pitch Perfect 2 was fun. We watched Maze Runner 2, and that was definitely
okay.
a movie.
Hang on. Did Cole make you watch Maze Runner?
Yeah.
I knew it. You listen. I was gonna say you cannot hang out with Cole and not watch like the Twink movie, like the Twink movie. TM.
Well, even he admits that movie isn't great.
No, it's not. It's not good, but it is.
But
it is Twinks, like homoerotic Twinks. Like it's exactly what Cole would make you watch.
And I watched Shin Gojira, and that was
Shin Gojira, so good.
That was so fun.
You finally watched it, huh?
I finally watched it.
I love
now
Shin
we can do an
Gojira.
episode about it. But it was fun.
Yes. I love that movie dearly. I also
really
like it just because
good.
it's basically Hideaki Anno gets to make something that's not Evangelion, but it's so Eva
But
adjacent. It's so
Eva.
funny. It's like right because he just reuses the music because he's just like I guess I own it.
Same music.
It's just like you like things start happening and it's like bum 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 and you're like, hey, wait a minute.
Like rising off the couch, like, hold up.
Hey, is he allowed to do that?
And then the way that all the actors deliver their lines is so Hideaki Anno. Like, it's no time to breathe, just spew out your line and go.
Hideaki Anno definitely has a very distinct directing style.
Yes, he does.
This is true.
But it worked for the movie. I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, so there was that. Played a bunch of games. I learned how to play Ascension, and that was fun.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Because I never really played like a deck building game before.
Right.
And that one was like it goes like by pretty quickly, which I liked.
Okay. I've never played it either.
And it's pretty easy to pick up, in my opinion. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I also got Monster Hunter World from my friend.
Ooh.
And so we've been playing that together with friendsies.
On PC?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Oh, that's right. You have a beefy PC now.
I have big PC now, yeah. So now I can run things and I can play them.
Nice. Monster Hunter is always one of those things that I wanted to pick up, but like you know how I am.
I can get well, in my opinion, it's everything that I want out of an MMO without the entirety of like the bads of the MMO too, right?
Yeah, that's fair. The like sort of I get what you mean.
Yeah. Because even though there is a lot of MMO elements, it does it in such a way that it doesn't feel super grindy for me. Or maybe it's because I'm having fun with my friends, but also I do want to play it even in my own time just because I actually do just want to unlock armor sets and stuff in the game,
right.
Which I never really feel like doing in other MMOs because it feels super like boring and tedious. But the world that they set up in Monster Hunter World is really pretty, and there are different approaches that you can take towards fighting all the monsters, and you can also use a whole crazy array of weapons that I think they give you like a set of like one weapon of each class to start with, and so you can try them all out and see which ones you like. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I think Monster Hunter has the benefit of it's just a really fun game.
Yes,
and
exactly.
It doesn't feel like grinding because the mechanics of the game are not like clunky like an MMO can be.
Yes.
Especially like more sort of, you point and you activate your school cooldowns on a cycle or whatever. Right. That can be very daunting to get into.
Right.
Whereas with Monster Hunter, even though the game is challenging, it is a fun game to play. It's like a fun action RPG.
Yeah, exactly. There's a certain simplicity to the combat, but there's also like this huge depth to it that you can just keep refining, getting better and better at it, and unlocking or finding out new things that you can do that you were like, oh my god, I didn't even realize I could do this kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite weapon?
So I started out with the light crossbow because I was like, cool, range DPS, easy clap for me because I haven't played a game like this in a while. And then I picked up the hunting horn, and I've loved that. I've been using that basically since then.
Oh, that thing is hilarious. I love the hunting horn.
It's so fun.
I played Monster Hunter very briefly on the 3DS because it was the only system I owned at the time that had it.
Yeah.
Not great because it was such a tiny screen, and obviously the 3DS before it had that before the new 3DS and before it had the weird sort of handle attachment, it only had the one joystick, so it was very clunky. Yeah, I would be very interested in picking it up on PC, but obviously, time.
I mean, yeah, but I recommend it if you just want something nice to play with friends and stuff. It's super easy to jump in and jump out of. Yeah. So that's been really good. and we've been making progress in that.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good time to move into the fall 2019 season.
Woo!
Which is nice. Wow, we actually kept it down. And I'm actually more saying this, I'm like patting myself on the back here because I managed to keep it down. I managed to condense arguably one of the busiest like 2 weeks in my life into like a 5 or 10 minute segment or whatever. That's nice. Okay, cool. Let's talk about anime. Huh? Let's talk about anime. So this season we kind of didn't watch like a ton of stuff. Like honestly speaking.
Yeah, I'm gonna argue that there wasn't a whole lot that I was interested in.
Yeah,
but
okay.
The stuff that I was interested in, we did a fairly good job of keeping up with it.
Yeah, I think this season was a little quieter, except like I will say this. I think the season is was very like the standout of this season personally to me, I think was Hoshiai no Sora. Now that I think about it, because everything else really was like, you know, either an adaptation or a continuation, or it was a Netflix jail, or it was put on hiatus. Or it was also in Netflix. Okay, like, and we'll obviously get into it when we get to it. But I feel like the season overall was mostly like a continuation season. It seemed like a season for continuations and for new seasons of things. We will not be talking about My Hero Academia, except I do think that it is worth talking about the newest season, because we didn't actually keep up with that, mostly due to scheduling issues, but we will, I promise. And this isn't one of those like, we will do it, promise. This is like, I will make Renu do this, promise.
What? I want to watch it, my boys.
I know.
My girls.
You're very much going to enjoy and also be distressed about the like rest of the season. And I'm so fucking prepared for it. Anyway, so we're gonna put that on hold for now. We're gonna put a pin in that.
Okay.
So the first thing we did finish was we finished season 2 of Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
And 2 seasons in, how do you feel about it, Renu?
I think it's still fun. It's remained rather consistent for me in terms of enjoyability overall.
Yeah.
Like, of course, in the beginning, it's a lot more like exciting because you don't know what's going on. But then it kind of rolls into a nice steady pace, it feels like. And it's continuously moving towards what I'm assuming is going to be a giant conflict between the two sides, which I'm really looking forward to, because one side, you don't really see much of anything on what they're doing. And then you're on Team Science. And so, and you get to see everything that they're doing.
Right.
And I am liking how I was having this discussion with a friend we were arguing about how shonen this series is, because...
Oh, incredibly.
To him, it's not really a shonen. But
really?
To me, it's everything shonen.
That's interesting, because to me, it really just checks all the boxes of a shonen series.
Exactly.
Like, it has steady progression of power.
Yeah.
It has conflicts that are addressed by those steady progressions. It has challenges that must be overcome by gaining more power. It's just that the measure of power is not fighting ability. It's how much
and I
science
think that's
you
what
did.
he was measuring like your everyday shonen as is like,
and I think
power battles, whatever, you know.
It's not necessarily like a faulty definition. It's just a little outdated, because shonen has come a long way since like 2011 is all I'm saying. But it's absolutely shonen. Like it relies upon all of the shonen tropes. There's like there's time skips, there's training montages. Like it has the whole thing. The whole suite is there.
I think it can also, I mean, I think there's an argument to be made about it kind of feeling a bit slice of lifey because of its pacing, because it is a lot like very everyday life-ish kind of thing, because they take it at a slower pace.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I would say that's fair. The sense of urgency is maybe not as well conveyed.
Sure, yeah, because you don't really see what's going on with the other side, and the tension overall is kind of like under the radar in terms of like, oh, it's way more exciting to figure out what they're gonna invent next.
The moment to moment tension is definitely pretty low. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Either way, it's been fun to watch. I still enjoyed it at the end of season 2. So
yeah, I would tend to agree. Like, the egregious female character designs aside. My God, they're just so bad. They're like so bad.
Just every now and then I remember how bad they are.
Right. Like halfway through the episode, you're like used to it. And then like a couple minutes later, you're like, hey, wait a minute. These suck. Which is like,
and then there's like Disney song lady.
Yeah. Okay. So that was I think my biggest real issue with this series is that there's like these really like heartfelt moments that are like meant to be like, man, like this is like what like humans invented science for. Like we did it for like, to like tell each other stories and to like enrich each other, and that's like really cool until the like character like, and I'm sure that this was a decision that they just had to like make, where they have a person who is singing in very good English. Like I think the singer must like speak English like natively or like close to natively.
Right.
I would be curious to know who they got to do the vocals for it. I'm sure that it's like in the credits somewhere. But the problem is that the style of the song is, as you said, very Disney.
It takes you out of it a little bit. I understand why they went with this song.
Right. It's like a very like popular style.
Yeah.
It just kind of, you're right, it immediately takes me out and like kind of confronts me with the fact that every other character in this series is speaking Japanese to each other.
I think if we were a Japanese viewer watching this show, it would be just fine. It'd be very touching. It would fit right in.
You know what it is? I think if I was a Japanese viewer of this show, I would watch it and be like, oh yeah, like the like, I would think it was very international. But as like as an American viewer, you just think like, what the fuck is happening?
Because
like,
it sounds so Disney, and Disney has a very specific sound to it.
Yeah, it's almost like a little bit, because it's like, it's supposed to be popular music, like it's supposed to be pop music, but pop music doesn't actually sound like that anymore. Pop music sounded like that 15 years ago. At this point, like right between that moment where like hip hop stopped being like pop music and like Taylor Swift started existing or whatever, right? It's like that era is like what it sounds like, which is really jarring and weird.
And it's a shame because the song and the voice, like all of it is very pretty, and I understand how it would be. It fits in with the mood and everything. It's just a certain aspect of it. It
is to me a complete tonal mismatch. Like because to me it's supposed to be this like song that evokes certain emotions.
Yes. That
it completely does not, at least for me. And I know for you as well. Like,
yeah, because I was laughing during the
right, because it comes at this moment that's supposed to be like, this is like, 2 million years of human history culminated in like this like cultural artifact of like, this song about people caring about each other or whatever. Except it's a Disney song. It sounds so trite. Like it immediately loses all. And that's not to say that like Disney is trite. Although, well, no
listening.
comment. No comment. Please give me free Disney Plus so that I can watch The Mandalorian. No, like it just doesn't feel. It doesn't fit the tone that they're trying to convey. Like, because it's so like Disney poppy, it's just not. It just doesn't. It's not good.
Like, I wonder how they would have been able to remedy it, because the singer in the story, at least the show, is supposed to sing in English, would it have been better if she had just sung like a traditional ballad versus like a pop song
right.
or something?
That's what I was thinking, is that I honestly think she should have just been like a ballad singer. Like, to me, at least when I was reading the manga the first time, and this is so funny to me when I was watching the anime, I was like, oh my. Because when I was reading the manga, I was like, wow, this is like a really like great sort of moment, and it kind of tells you the like ethos of the series, this idea that like this idea of like what the fuck are we inventing science and technology for anyway, if not to make things better for people and to like give them hope and like you know, stuff like that, right? As like, you know, as people who are creative, as people who are storytellers, that kind of stuff is really important to me, and I really like when a series addresses it.
Right.
And so when I was reading the manga, I was like, wow, this is like a really great moment. Like, I'm kind of like, you know, obviously like it is a shonen manga. It's not super heavy. It doesn't like hardcore critically analyze like its own themes and ideas that, you know, strongly. But it's a shonen manga, so I'm not necessarily expecting it to. And
sure.
Like that moment to me was like, oh, like that's kind of a nice thing. It's kind of like that moment in Slime where like you have the two people who were isekai'd from different time periods, and so you have someone from modern day Japan, which is, by the way, like an awful place, like a great place, but also an awful place where people are overworked to death and the birth rate is declining and the end of civilization is, or whatever, right? Well, at the same time, it's like this person literally comes from when Japan was on fire. Right? Yeah. It's kind of just a good feel good moment. And then when the anime comes around, it has to be set to music, and boy, it's not like, it just doesn't fit.
It definitely, if I was reading the manga, it would not be what I imagined her to be singing.
No, I 100% imagined her singing a ballad.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah. I mean, that's like honestly my like second biggest complaint, aside from like the character designs of the female characters, like all of them. But beyond that, like beyond those two things, like it's a very, very entertaining show to watch. It's a very fun show, and you get to learn like science stuff. I mean, you shouldn't do it in your house or whatever. Don't. But like they give you as many so many warnings about it, obviously.
Yes.
But like, yeah, it is what it is. I would say, like, it's basically like if you made Minecraft into an anime, more or less, you know? And, you know, for that, honestly, like, it is so straightforward. It's actually funny to me how straightforward this show is. But, like, it's so enjoyable to watch as a result. You know, it has no qualms about what it is. It has no misgivings about what
exactly.
it is. It is not pretending to be anything else.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just full frontal Dr. Stone. You know?
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think that I can understand if you would want a little bit more from a shonen, or like really anything. Like, you know, if you could maybe look into like, obviously the villain kind of has a point about what people are doing with science. It's kind of, they're doing some whack shit. Like, God knows, you know. I do like it as a thing, because like to me the entire sort of aspect of it where Senku's dad goes to space, like he trains to be an astronaut, like that's such a cool thing, you know? Like it just makes me feel like I'm a kid again, and I'm just like, man, outer space is so cool. I would love to go to outer space. People who go to space are the coolest, you know? It brings me back to when I was a child. It fills me with childish glee. And honestly, like, sometimes that's just what I want from a show.
And I just want it to be exactly what it aims to achieve, and I think it does so pretty well.
It puts onto display all of the like brightest aspects of what we do as a civilization, our like stated goal, like, you know, what. And it's basically like if NASA made an anime, right? Like God knows they're in the anime. Like he goes to NASA to go to the International Space Station, but like it really is like, you know, when you're a kid and you're just like, man, NASA's the coolest, right? And it fills you with hope because like things kind of suck on Earth, but we have to like look up at the stars and we dream about that stuff. And then, you know, you get to be a jaded adult and you're like, ugh, everything sucks, man. It's like space isn't even that cool or whatever. But, you know, like this has that moment in it where you're just like, wow, I remember what it was like to not be a jaded adult that hates everything. Like, I find joy in looking up at the stars and imagining something better. And I think that is, to some extent, valuable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, Dr. Stone, it's pretty fun. I would say it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Definitely. If you need a shonen to watch, like, I would not skip it, even if it's not just your classic battle anime. I think it's fun, this new trend where like we get action shows that are not fighting.
Yeah.
Because we're
That's
kind
some
of
the other stuff we're going to talk about today.
Well, I was gonna say, like, we're kind of done with it, actually. Like, we had as far as like serialized shonen anime, we have Demon Slayer, and then we're kind of done with it now. Which isn't to say that someone can't do something cooler or better or whatever. But man, I love Demon Slayer. You know what I mean? Okay, let's talk about the next thing, which is True Cooking Master Boy, the proto Shokugeki no Soma. It's like if Shokugeki no Soma's fan service was exclusively retired old men from China.
Because everyone wants that.
Yeah. This, so I'm still not 100% clear on where this picks up in relation to the original series, but I also don't really know if I care. It's fun. You know, the animation has gotten a little upgrade. It looks good. I don't know. The thing about it is, like, to me, this show was good. And then at some point it goes off the rail.
It got way crazier than I expected it to be.
And I'm convinced that every show, like every shonen from like the late 90s, or like every show from the from the early 90s, late 80s, probably to like 2001, I'm gonna say, just goes so ham. Like, they go so ham at some point, and things just stop making sense because they ran out of stuff to write about. Because like he's the like master cooking boy now, and then what? He has to fight like weird Illuminati knights.
Yeah,
the cooking underground. Like, and then he gets a knife because he wins this competition that literally revitalizes ingredients. Like, he cuts a fish that is like way past its like prime eating time, and it suddenly becomes perfect again. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because there was no indication that this would happen until that moment where like it's just, you can tell at that moment it has made a sharp left turn. It has made a decision to do something else. And I know, and I recognize it because I saw it in Rurouni Kenshin when those fucking knights come in. I saw it in Shokugeki no Soma at the end of this season.
Yeah.
Spoilers for the next arc, by the way. He fights the cooking underground. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
Every cooking anime needs a cooking underworld.
They do, because they're all shonen anime that need like the traditional illegal bad guys, the ones that are like, we play dirty to cheat. Except because they're not like, because they can't do that in cooking, they just have to be like weirdos with like really weird cooking methods, like the guy in True Cooking Master Boy who cooks with an ice knife.
Bro, he gave himself frostbite.
He gives himself frostbite to like cook the fish, or like to cut the fish, and then like it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot.
Oh my god, boy be over here like I'm gonna
It goes-
sacrifice my own hand.
So far off the rails in a way that is not telegraphed by any other part of the show. And I think that's personally hilarious, and also I don't know if I really want to keep watching it.
But
to be
it's
completely
so
honest.
fun.
There were a couple episodes where things got so weird that we just had to keep watching. We're like,
the
oh, this is the last
vampire
episode.
guy.
Right. And then we watched the vampire guy who's like, what the fuck is this Dracula guy? Why is he here? And then it turns out he's like a hot lady in disguise. I don't understand. I don't. I really do not understand what decision was made here other than we must keep the serialization going. Like, at least with something like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, it got gradually more weird over time. This is just it just takes that cliff. It just plunges. Yeah, I don't know. If you like Food Wars and you just want that with less fan service, I would honestly give this a watch. It's identical. It's the same. It is exactly the same. Speaking of, let's talk about Food Wars Season 4.
Food Wars Season 4. Shonen cooking battle anime.
Food Wars Shokugeki no Soma. This is like the wildest season to date, because Food Wars also has that like ramp up to like being the wildest.
Yeah.
This is, I will say, at least the ramp up for this is a lot like it is more gradual than it is for True Cooking Master Boy.
Yes, it
because
is.
there is weird stuff that happens, and obviously spoilers for season 4 of Shokugeki no Soma. But like one of the battles is, well, and this was actually, I think that this season is probably like singularly the best one in Food Wars, like this whole arc, the like the Rebel arc or whatever. Although I will say, in terms of like single Shokugeki battles, I really really like Kurokiba versus the Heat guy, because I love Kurokiba. But like, that aside, I think this arc is the best because it kind of puts on display just how prominently like this is a shonen battle anime without fighting, because you have people pulling whack shit on each other. They're like, all right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shove so many fucking artichokes into my sauce so that whatever you make is gonna taste way too sweet. And the guy is like, well, using the traceability that I stole from the trace guy, I traced you, and I knew you would do that, and so I made my food less sweet on purpose. And like, it is like that moment it's like the first moment in season 2 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure where it's just like, and next you're gonna say this, and he says the thing, and he's like, whoa! It legit feels like that moment where you're like, oh my god, this reversal is so good. You're like, whoa! Whoa!
It's so crazy, but I loved all of it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Oh
It is a wild train, and you just have to go with it. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of have to like give up trying to like latch onto anything. Like, none of it means anything, but you have to accept that to be on board for how weird and wild the battles get. And they do get so weird and so wild, and I love it. I think that this arc has displayed some of Shokugeki's best strengths.
Yeah.
They're like on full display. They're like, we're gonna go out with a bang.
Right, exactly. It felt like the author just kind of cut loose and was like, you know what, my series is ending, and it's ending presumably the way that he wanted it, and so kind of just went crazy with it.
Now, I will say this is not the last arc
Right. Which I'm really surprised by, considering the way they wrapped it up.
Yeah, I told you about this, but like, I told you this when we watched it, because they do this thing where they kind of gloss over the last thing that happens, or the thing that, like, the little interlude piece that transitions into the next arc, which is kind of a shame, I'm not gonna lie, because that battle is really funny. The one where it's Tadakoro versus the guy who cooks using lavish ingredients, because he's like he's the first member of the cooking underworld that they meet.
Cooking underworld,
which is always so funny to me. It's just like, well, these are people that just cook for people who do illegal things. It's like the black market of cooking. Like, it is like the idea of the black market where it's just a bunch of people like with tables out and like guns and like rockets out, and then like someone comes in and they're like, the FBI showing up, and so they all pack up their stuff and they like run away. Except they're cooking. Anyway, weird sense of deja vu, but like it's really good, except you have to accept that it is so different from the rest of the show.
It's so different.
And I promise you that the next arc, if they do it, I have no idea what their plans are for it. Like, if they're going to do it as another final season, or if they're going to do it as a movie, because I could easily see them doing it as a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from a business standpoint, that does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? I will say, like, people were very divided on the last arc of Shokugeki, because I initially despised it. I hated it.
Oh.
Actually. I thought it was way too much.
Yeah.
I thought, like, all of the rest of it has been grounded in some amount of, like, cooking research and real world application. And this person is cooking with a chainsaw. This is a clown that's juggling a piece of meat between two, like, barbecue lids so that he can heat it with the force of movement. And it's like, none of that makes any sense. But I guess as far as it goes, if there was any show that was going to do this, it was going to be Food Wars, or it was going to be Toriko, Rip to Toriko, the anime. Real crying shame about it, because it is honestly super underrated.
It's a fun time.
Toriko is super underrated. But like, I really enjoyed this, and I really came to enjoy the last arc of Shokugeki. I'm like really curious to see what they'll do with it, because of the way they glossed over the interlude piece. I kind of thought they weren't gonna do it, but then they have that little teaser at the end that shows the character who's like the central character for the next arc. So who knows? Who knows what's happening? Okay. My money is on a movie, personally. Yeah. But yeah, at this point, we are 4 seasons into Shokugeki no Soma. You will know if you like it or not.
Yeah.
Like, that is what I will say to you. You will know if you like it or not, because all of the food stuff is great. All of it looks amazing, looks so delicious. I think the only real problem one could really have with this show is the fan service, because it is quite gratuitous. And I will say there are some moments of food judging that are less gratuitous fan service and more like interesting, like, how do we depict how delicious something is without just saying, oh, it's so good, you can taste the flavors mingling around, which is like they get to it by depicting like, oh, it tastes like I'm at a summer festival.
Right. It'll transport you to somewhere else kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think that's super interesting. Lots of clothes fly off in this season. More clothes than ever before fly off. More moaning, more screaming, more senpais in their underwear. You know what it is.
Yeah, the show has never been shy about what it is. So
nope. you know what it is. It's a food cooking manga that's written by some dude and drawn by a hentai manga artist. So you know. But yeah, I really enjoyed it consistently. Even though I will say the animation is definitely one of those like cyclical animation. Like it is, they crank it out, they have like one or two Sakuga moments where like the animation is really good, and the rest of it is kind of phoned in.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, anime is a tough space to work in, so I understand. It doesn't look bad.
No.
It just looks a little static. It's not like wow me.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be because it's a food show, so the food has to look good, and that's about it. That's all I'm expecting.
Right. Yeah, me too.
Speaking of things that look a little bit worse than you expected, Oreski.
Nice transition.
Yep. You know me, really good at those transitions. Okay, so I want to hear your opinions before I give you mine.
Ooh.
How did you feel about this?
I will say that even in the last episode that we watched, I was still bothered by how the blur bloom effect happened. However, I ended up really enjoying the show because it is well produced, regardless of that, in spite of that.
I think you are correct when you say that, yes.
It remains really funny. I am intrigued at how it keeps going.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like that baseball game.
Yes.
Spawns so many story points in this show, and it keeps going. I am curious about how long this show will go for.
I think the OVA, because there's an OVA that will come out sometime in the middle of this year.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 2020. Sick. Okay. There's an OVA that'll come out, and I suspect that will be the last episode, at least for the anime. I don't know if the light novel is continuing.
Right. Okay. I wonder how, like, the light novel continues the story then, because they keep throwing more angles and more characters at this situation, and I don't know. I feel like we're gonna exhaust some possibilities soon.
I think that's true. That's fair.
Yeah, but no, it's really funny. I enjoy it. The the way that they kind of encourage the main character to be a scumbag is quite fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh my god, and the voice acting was so spot on perfect for him.
Oh, the voice acting in this show is actually amazing. It's great. Like it really lands every performance.
Yeah. Everyone is actually quite good.
It is. It's not like that one show where there's that really long... Have you ever heard this? Where there's this really long, heartfelt, like one shot, one take, like speech from one of the characters, like this heartbreaking speech about how she can't understand her son because he keeps saying chuny shit.
What? No.
Oh my god. I feel like you've seen it, but I'll send it to you after this. But
okay.
It's like this incredibly like, it's like, it was like that. Okay. It was like that moment in Parasite when like you go into the basement and you see the guy, you know?
Oh.
Everything up until that point is like, it's nothing no longer. Because this speech is like, it's like Emmy Award like level speech. It's, if I could give this voice actress an award for that speech particularly, I would. Now I will say the rest of the anime, hot garbage. Don't watch it. It's not worth watching. It's not even worth hating. But on the topic of good voice acting, I just remembered that. I'll definitely link that for the podcast in case you're curious.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, you're absolutely right. The voice of the main character especially is so yes. good. It's nailed perfectly. All the like slightly slanted English, just like, oh my god.
The English
wonderful.
Always kills me.
Son of a bitch. No, wait, that was JoJo. Yeah, no, the voice actor absolutely knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
He's really funny. He really delivers those lines.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts about it before I like?
No, go for it.
Okay. This is not a good show. Let me be clear. I love this show dearly. It was one of my, it was a wonderful, wonderful watch. I had a ton of fun watching it. It's not that good of a show.
It's not that good, but it's so fun.
No. But I will say this. It's like moments of the show are really good.
Yeah.
A lot of the jokes are still pretty funny. They're pretty similar though, so if you don't like the jokes you find in the first episode, you're not gonna like the rest of it. And the voice acting obviously just drives it home. Plus the production value is actually pretty good despite the blur effect, obviously. So it looks good for the most part. Sort of. You're gonna put caveat after caveat here, but
asterisk.
Right, asterisk. It does look good, and it sounds good, and it is very funny at times. It's very I would say it's like 50% Konosuba, right? Where it's like Konosuba except only half the jokes land.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest problem with it generally is just a pacing issue. I think that, and this might be a problem with the source material, or it might be a problem with adaptation, because a lot of light novels end up being pretty boring in anime, because so much of a light novel is just the main character talking to himself. And because you don't necessarily want to do that on anime, it turns out you just find a lot of dead space. And if you don't do anything with it, then it's not going to be that interesting. So,
yeah.
As a result, there is a ton of downtime in this show where nothing is happening. There's so many, don't get me wrong, there are really funny moments and things get so over the top, ridiculous dramatic. But at the same time, there's so many moments that just don't matter. They're just you're just waiting for them to be over so that the characters can do something wild again. Because when they're doing something weird, you're like, what is happening? Why is everyone like this? And then in between them, it's kind of confused about what it wants to be, right? It's confused about whether it wants to lean really hard into being this parody of this really hardcore parody of harem rom-com, and whether it wants to be a sincere kind of honest take on it. But because it lands somewhere in the middle and it fluctuates, the moments when it's in the middle are kind of the worst because it's not doing anything. The moments when it's basically just reassuring the main character that he's a good person, I hate. Right? I'm not actually interested in that.
Yeah.
Right? I can understand how someone might be interested in that, especially if you're aiming it at people who do watch those shows, right? It's like how Konosuba starts as an isekai, but then it moves kind of into doing other stuff with that, while at the same time also doing the isekai. But Konosuba doesn't have that weird hesitation in the middle. And actually, this is a very interesting thing about harem rom-coms, I find. And also, well, okay, I'm just going to say very broadly harem shows, where a lot of them get very confused about what they want to do a couple of beats into the story. And I would love to do an entire episode about harem anime.
Okay.
And I will drag you on this journey with me, and we'll talk about all kinds of fun stuff Love Hina and stuff like that. Anyway, but I find that, and I'm only just now kind of realizing this. I realized this in the shower. I was taking a shower after we watched Oresuki, and I was like, hey, wait a minute. There is this incessant need for harem rom-com shows to become slice of life. Right? And it is already inherently a little slice of life because it's set in school, but because it's a rom-com, it is about other stuff that's happening. So it's not actually a slice of life, it's a drama.
Right.
Right? Or it's a dramedy, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The problem becomes when you have used that drama up, what happened to the characters because the serialization keeps going. This is actually one of my biggest problem with light novel harem adaptations is that light novels meander for so long that I basically lose interest. It's actually my biggest problem with a show that I otherwise adore, which is Oregairu, or My Youth Love Comedy Snafu.
Yeah.
Where it is so punchy and so honest for the first 1.5 seasons. And then after that, the characters are resolved. And they still have some hang-ups, but it becomes a slice of life show, and you're not really sure why you're still watching it. Now, I understand, and I think Oregairu actually does this better than most other shows, where it's kind of like this moment of like a couple of episodes of reprieve where you get like your main character who has notably been kind of a scumbag, maybe for the right reasons, maybe not, but is kind of a scumbag, has been redeemed. Like, what does he do with that now? It's a little uncomfortable, it's a little weird, it's a little uncertain. I think in shows like Oregairu, it works for what it's intending to do. I don't think it works in Oreski. Like,
I think because his arc comes like super early. And
right.
And then it's like, what do we do with him now? He had his character arc, and it's like, okay, but now he has an overarching character arc between him and the girl where he kind of like starts to realize his feelings for her, kind of thing, whatever. But they play around, like kind of like tease and hint at it so much that it almost feels like it's dragging it out. Like she does this double speak thing so often, it drives me nuts.
Yeah. I mean, the like third time that they do that plot point specifically, you're like, God, come on. Like, come on.
And that's why I mentioned, like, I don't know how long it could go on after this, because it feels like they just keep like approaching that same thing but from different angles, and they keep exhausting these different possibilities. It's like at some point you're just gonna run out, or you're gonna lose the viewer's interest.
I think you're right, and I think that this show is not one that is meant for or should be meant for a long-term serialization.
No, absolutely not.
To me, like, the best thing this show could have done is if it hit all of its beats faster. Like, if it could manage to ramp faster and harder, then I would be more interested in it. Because as it stands, there are these... anytime it kind of... Okay, the first 3 episodes, fantastic. I love the first 3 episodes of this show.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're not really sure why you're still watching it. Even though it's still funny, there are still funny things happening. There's still the characters there. They're still doing stuff. And they still, I guess, have like certain hangups. But at the same time, it's not like you're really doing anything else with it. They have these kind of ramping arcs in a similar shape. Like the shape of the arcs is the same, but because it already happened in the first 3 episodes, you're kind of wondering about the rest of it.
Right.
And that's
it does feel a bit like, why are we still here kind of thing.
Right. And I think it works better for shows like Bunny Girl Senpai, which is, another light novel adaptation. But I think it works better for shows like that because they have no misgivings about, like, are we a parody? Are we not? Like, it's just, it knows what it is. It's a sharply written youth drama, and it hits those arcs, right? And it does so in a way that's arguably more elegant than I think Kokoro Connect was, which is something that I will always harp on about because I love Kokoro Connect, but my God, sometimes it is too much. But like, I can't really say the same about Oreski because there's nothing happening in the interims. It's not a drama D, or it is a drama D.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
But because it's like a pendulum that just stalls in the middle. right? Like when it's swinging
Yeah.
between, like when you have a pendulum that swings between drama and comedy, you want it to be snappy, you want it to be fast, you don't want it to catch in the middle. And
yeah, I'm
not do
wondering
anything.
because there are, you know, a lot of dramatic moments and a lot of funny moments, you do need a bit of a break between them so that you're not constantly like desensitized to all these high
Right.
and low points, right? And so I'm wondering what they would be able to do to mitigate that, because I feel like the filler is their solution to that, but it doesn't feel like it's a good use of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I think in a lot of ways, to me, it's just because the characters are actually like as ridiculous as some of the characters are, and as like well done the first sort of arc of motivations and like, you know, plot lines is, it kind of feels like the author like had that in mind, like the first 3 episodes, or however the equivalent of that in the light novels is, wrote that, was suddenly really popular and was like, oh god, what do I do now? Because the thing is, the characters don't have places to go in the narrative, except the narrative pretends like they do.
I that's what I was just thinking, was that in order to fill that quote unquote dead space or whatever, or keep the pendulum swinging, it would be nice if we got deeper characterizations of these characters, because even though we finished a whole season with them, I don't really I don't know how attached I am to them or how well I actually know them. I know Himawari plays tennis or whatever. We got a student council president. We have a newspaper girl. We have restaurant girl. We have girl who just wants to be popular. And then it feels like really shallow characterizations. And even Scumbag Boy is just Scumbag Boy who likes girls.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if that would be a solution to help keep interest in the show, but also not feel like the dead space is just filler.
Well, I would agree with that. I think that like, I do think that deeper characterization would have been just like a saving grace for the show, because the premise of it is set up to be a parody. It is not set up to be like a character drama,
right?
Necessarily, right? And as a result, the character drama after the first 3 episodes falls flat, because you realize these characters are static. Like,
right.
I do have this sort of theory about harem shows, equilibrium, and status quo. And it was the reason so many of them continued for so long. But also because Love Hina was really popular, because it was interfacing with certain cultural currents in Japan at the time. Discussion for that episode. But like, no joke, I do think that, you know, because like it really feels like an accident that it was as popular as it was. Because don't get me wrong, I think it's interesting. Like, I think that at least the last arc of the series is interesting, about like someone who is an antagonist because he's just too nice.
Yeah, that
he's
threw me
just
for a
too
loop.
straightforward. And I found that like amazing, actually. Like this idea of how someone can be uncomfortable with a certain like social position that was thrust upon them without it necessarily being like a negative quote unquote situation where you're being bullied. It's more like people are expecting things of you and you do not want to fit those expectations. It's this kind of like idea of like, what does it mean to fit in school, in a society, right? And so that stuff to me is somewhat interesting, and I like the fact that the villain is essentially the main character of a real rom-com harem show, right? Where he's like the real character because he's like a good guy and he follows his heart and he does his best, and he's, in any other show he would win, quote unquote, right? He would win out in the end, but because this isn't his show, he's not going to. And the main character knows that. And I think that dynamic is a lot more interesting than everything that happened in the middle. I think everything that happened in the middle was just kind of whatever. It really was
Yeah.
just whatever. If you watch the first 3 episodes of this show and
Yeah.
the last 3, you will miss nothing. Oh, okay. No. Watch the first 3 episodes, watch the pool episode, and then you watch the last 3 episodes.
The pool episode.
The pool episode was so funny.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, like, it is on kind of like a if you look at it from a story and character structure standpoint, it's not a good show, but it has good writing, it has good voice acting, it has good
manages to
production.
be entertaining regardless, which I think
it is still eminently entertaining.
Yeah.
It is absolutely worth watching at least the first 3 episodes, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you about the characterization and because it does feel very slow at times. Like, I did not care about what they were doing with the stupid library.
I don't understand. Okay, I know it was a plot contrivance to get the 2 groups of characters to meet each other, but it's just like, who closes a school library? What? Who closes a school library?
Used it.
Like, that's not how it works.
We don't want our students to read.
If anything, they would want to keep it open, like, especially if no one was going.
Yeah.
Also, like, do kids not borrow textbooks or anything? I don't. Whatever. Okay. I mean, logistically, it doesn't have to make sense because it is about. It is the plot point that brings the 2 casts together.
Yeah.
And I like the dynamic between the 2 sets of students. And I wish that was just more of it, honestly. Like, I wish more of the series was just that, because it is so much more interesting when you get to the point where, like, everyone is just vaguely uncomfortable. I love it when everyone is just vaguely uncomfortable. They're like, wow, you're kind of a dick. And he's like, well, you're kind of a dick. You know who's kind of a dick? The guy who's too nice. I love it, you know? And it almost feels like characterization because, you know, you have you finally have a foil for this character where it's like, you know, he's kind of a scumbag. He just really likes the ladies, except he also, like, cares about his friends and he wants to do stuff. And he never grows past that point. But now you have a character that's like, he actually doesn't care about his friends. Like, he cares so much about his friends, he doesn't care about them. He's too nice and too stupid. He's a himbo. No, he's not a himbo. He's too twinky.
Oh.
And he's too much of a jerk. Even though he's well-intentioned. Like, I like the fact that the antagonist for the last season is a well-intentioned person who is not doing anything technically wrong except for, you know, harassing a girl who's very clearly not into him. But, man, I tell you what. Okay, let's talk about Hoshiai and Sora.
Oh my god.
Speaking of drama, let's talk about Hoshiai and Sora.
Oh, man.
Or Stars Align. Okay. I know that you were getting a little overwhelmed with how dramatic it was.
Yeah.
How do you feel now?
Now that I have finished it. Okay. So
okay, and you've heard about what happened with this show, right?
Yes, I read up on it when I finished it. I was like,
okay.
What just happened? And then I read and I was like, oh, okay. So I guess, well, we can talk about that too.
Yeah. So initially this show, which is, and this blew my mind when I realized this is not an adaptation. This is an original anime. They promised the director 24 episodes, and very late into production, they cut it in half to 13.
Yeah.
Is it 13?
Which freaking sucks. 12.
Oh, 12, yeah. And I don't know if it has been confirmed, but I have a suspicion about why it might have been cut.
Yeah?
Well, here's the thing. I really liked this show. It is super uncomfortably heavy. Like, I understand where you're coming from, where you think it's, like, too dramatic. To me, it is, like, it's not necessarily that it's like too dramatic. It's just that like the stuff that they talk about is so heavy that I need to be prepared for it. So
Yeah.
here is the thing. I give Hoshiai no Sora all of my blessings. Just don't watch the last like part of the last episode because you'll be disappointed. Because it sets up plot threads that don't get resolved because the show is over.
Yeah.
But I think that there must be very heavy content warnings on this show for all kinds of bad family stuff. Like,
Yeah.
at least 2 step family situations where the stepmother really does not give a shit about the previous mother's child. And those boys are part of the soft tennis club. I did not realize soft tennis was a thing until you told me about it. I learned on the podcast. You can hear it in that episode where I'm like, what? In addition to that, there is a lot of like, there's one father who is like it's a divorced father who just comes in, steals money, and beats the shit out of his kid. It only happens a couple times, but it is very upsetting. And then there is the most upsetting helicopter parent I've seen in anime in such a long time. That whole sequence made me so viscerally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So if you've had a controlling parent and that still sets you, like, if that still triggers you, I would take caution when watching this show.
Yeah.
It is that, like, strongly depicted. Like, it depicts these kids in these, like really tight, tough familial situations with such, like, brutal honesty about what it's like that I'm like, I only had this very mildly, but I understand what's happening, and I'm very, very, very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've seen Knives Out yet.
No.
But it's kind of like in Knives Out when you see the family being racist, and you're like, oh, and you like clench because you felt that. You've been in that position before.
Oh.
I don't know. This show is like, it's kind of everything to me. Like this season, at least, it's kind of everything to me because it is about these boys, and they're boys, right? And they're going through all this really tough emotional shit, and they have very few people to turn to except for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so not only do you have young boys that are like showing that they're vulnerable and like taking comfort in each other, you also have a character that is questioning their identity, like sexually, gender wise. And this show has the most amazing depiction of LGBTQ issues I've ever seen in anime.
My favorite scene out of this entire season was that scene
By far.
between him and Maki was just so good and so well written, so well handled, everything.
I don't like, I legitimately don't understand how they got this past the anime community, and it might be part of why they cut it in half, because it's like, okay, in this 5-minute scene, we have established there is a like female to male trans character who is very important to one of the main characters and is a positive force in his life. Mm-hmm. Are you fucking kidding me? That's amazing. Mm-hmm. There is a discussion of like what it means to be gender nonconforming, of what it means to identify yourself with labels, saying like, because the character says, you know, like, I'm having trouble because I don't feel like a boy, but I also don't feel comfortable being called non-binary. Yeah. And that's like mind-blowing to me. That is,
yeah, no, that was crazy. I was like, is this anime
amazing.
really talking about this? Like having a gentle discussion on this topic?
It is. It's not only the best discussion of like, you know, gender nonconformity and sexual identity in anime. It is the most brutally honest, kind, and respectful approach to it I've seen in any media all year. Like, I wish that we had the rest of this show to resolve all of these character things.
Yeah.
Like, it is a rough watch. Like, it legitimately is uncomfortable and upsetting to watch because it's doing its job right. You know, it's depicting these kids in these really unfortunate situations. It's not like, you know, it's not like all of the kids have parents that like beat them, but it's like very clear and honest about the kinds of emotional abuse and neglect that especially male children face in the home. And that's amazing to me. Like, the existence of this show, even with the 12 episodes that it was forced into, is amazing to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, it kind of fills me with hope. Which is amazing.
Hope.
Like, because in any other show, you know, we would have the quote unquote joke be, okay, they're gonna dress up like girls, right? That's the joke. Except they take that, they're like, oh, ha ha ha, just kidding. Do you want like a nuanced and respectful discussion of gender nonconformity? And you're like, oh my god, you just hit me in the face with this. Whoa. I was so impressed. I was so impressed with this show. And from now on, I'm going to watch out for anything that anybody on the, I'm going to watch out for the director. I'm going to watch out for the writer. I need it. You know, I need it in my body. I never knew what it felt like to be so represented in an anime. Where I was like, wow, I wish I had this when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only like 23, but like, I'm well past the time in my life where I'm like incredibly emotionally volatile, and like something like this probably would have been really healthy for me growing up. But like, I'm so impressed because it and this is my favorite part about Hoshiai no Sora. It almost doesn't give a shit about the sport. Like, it's just like they play the sport, they're getting better at it, but we're just gonna skip 6 months because you don't want to watch that. I'm like, you right. I mean, it's funny when I say it like that, but like, actually, they have just the right amount of them playing the sport to remind you, oh yeah, they're like soft tennis players. Like, that was the whole thing about this show.
Yeah, it's definitely, so I feel like sports anime tends to fall into two camps, which is one, it's all about the sport, or two, it's almost not about the sport. It's almost not about the sport. It's just the background. Yeah, it's
somehow
all about the drama.
Kuroko no Basket is both. But like,
no basket is
well, because they're not playing basketball; they're just playing laser tennis. It's definitely
about their shonen battle sport. Like,
right? Yeah, like, I like that because the thing that I like about sports anime is when the sport is a stand-in for other things. And that is what this is in this show. It is a stand-in for that, which is, I think, why I would probably like Haikyuu if I ever started watching it, because like, the volleyball it's about the sport. It is largely about the sport, but also it is about like, you know, what does that sport represent? You know, it represents like success and like victory and like all those kinds of things. And like, what does that mean as like a personal growth thing? But like in Hoshiai no Sora, it's like if you took all that and you just were like, throw it into the emotional blender.
What I think is what it is, the way that it approaches the sport is that I feel like it could have been any sport that is a doubles setup.
I think you're right. I think that's the most important part of it.
Yeah. It has less to do with the fact that it's soft tennis versus the fact that they're partnered off and then they get to kind of support each other that way. And yeah. I still, even having finished the season, have mixed feelings about the anime.
I think that's fair. I think that's very fair to say.
I think I would still recommend it. I would just have to asterisk it a lot.
Yeah.
And like content warnings and whatnot, but also I think in terms of production, you could tell that it was quite scattered. Like they were getting like a lot of like, you can't do this maybe, or like budget cut here, that kind of thing.
Definitely.
I think it's really impressive that they got this show made at all, considering, because you can kind of sense it, that it was really hard to produce.
It's such a scrappy project. Like,
yes.
The art style is like this like wonderful soft art style, and I think it really does it a lot of favors in terms of like when the production value kind of takes a dip. The moments when they play tennis and you can tell that it's just like they've taken the time to like anime draw over the rotoscope is like really good. You know, like it was in the badminton anime that we watched. But I think you're right that the general production value was lower. Like their budget was
which I think is, it's a shame, but it happens, I guess.
And I think for a series like this, it's not necessarily the focus, so it's
no,
okay.
It's not. Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of the story, like the writing is so strong, but I have huge qualms with how it was edited.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, the pacing is insane.
Yeah.
It will jump from like, oh my gosh, I'm following the story, everything is great. You have a soft moment, you have a slow moment, then you have fast-paced moment, and you have tension, and then all of a sudden it's just tension, bad, and then you're back to, oh yeah, it's about the sport again, by the way. Oh yeah, and did you know that this kid was traumatized too? More bad, and then here's a good moment, and it is so wild. And I can tell that because each individual scene is really well written, but it's slapped together so poorly.
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. So it definitely feels like if they had been able to make it, like had the time and the budget and maybe not gotten cut, that they would have been able to like make something really, really incredible and been able to follow the story in such a good, like the Antarctica anime kind of pacing.
Oh my god, yeah.
But yeah, it feels like they just got smacked around and they had to make what they could.
Yeah. I think like I definitely agree with you that the pacing was really off to me because I think it was really good in some places. Like that's that moment in the first episode when Maki's dad shows up, you're like, oh no. And it's the perfect like tone setter for the rest of the show that the show doesn't really follow up on. Because those moments are best because they're incredibly jarring and they remind you that these kids have like so much stuff going on at home. And I think they're best used, I think you're right, between these really happy moments. The problem is that when you put a tense moment after another tense moment with a different set of family and a different kid, and then another tense moment after that, it's like you're kind of saturating it. It's like none of the individual like moments hit as hard because you've saturated it in that way. And I feel like part of this was like a time constraint thing, where they really wanted to make sure that they had set this stuff up for the latter half of the show that will not exist. And I'm really upset by because this show deserves to have 12 more fucking episodes.
It does. It seriously does. Like, even qualms aside, like, or taking into account what I didn't like about the show, I really want there to be a season 2.
Right. It is so important to me that this show is finished. I mean, not just because it is like, it does the gay stuff good. Like it is a well-written show. You're right. It's not a very well-paced show. Not a very well put together show. Yeah. It is definitely a little ramshackle at times. But it is a well-written show, and it hits hard when it hits. And it is so brutally honest about the circumstances that these characters are in. And honestly, like, it's weird that, like, we don't get more shows about, like, male characters being vulnerable when the most popular anime of all fucking time is about that? I'm confused. Okay. But yes, I'm really upset because suddenly the show is made worse because all of these plot threads that were set up in the first half aren't going to get resolved. And it just kind of sits in limbo. It doesn't stand as its own thing because we were promised a second season or a second part of the anime. So it's like, that sucks. And I really wish that wasn't the case. And if there's anything that we can do about it, please just do something. I beg of you.
Yeah, I was reading, like, you know, stuff like in terms of people were trying to post things and like, what can we do? There is a Reddit/Tumblr thread going on that they've provided a link where you can basically tweet out how you feel about the show and what kind of scenes you like, and maybe through that, if there's enough outpouring of support for the show, that because there's enough interest, that they might be able to greenlight a season 2. Who knows? But that's the only thing that I've found so far. That you would be able to find, like, if you Google like help Hoshiai no Sora get a season 2 or something, it'll come up.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Interesting. So I just looked this up to see what was happening. It turns out that the scriptwriter, or the scriptwriter and director of this show is the person who did Escaflowne.
Oh,
interesting. I've always wanted to watch Escaflowne. I've never actually watched it, but I've heard good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't do a ton of stuff, but my god, Hoshiai no Sora, like, original creator, director, and scriptwriter. Like, this guy is responsible for this anime. That is this anime's man's.
Yeah, the man's.
That's the man's. Yeah, I don't know. It's such a shame.
Yeah.
It's such a shame. Anyway. We can't just talk about Hoshiai no Sora all day, as much as I would love to. Because, my god, I was so unprepared for what happened in that show, honestly. I came away, man. I was like, especially when the, like, helicopter parent stuff comes in, I'm like, I felt that really in my stomach.
That.
I was like, oh no, I'm back in middle school.
Stop. I feel like just as traumatized as him when his mom started calling. I was like, son, no.
I legit felt the dread. I was like, oh no, it's the dread. It's like I'm back in middle school. And I don't want to go back. Yeah, I would love to have an in-depth discussion about all the little intricacies of the show, but it's neither here nor there. Let's talk briefly about Babylon, which was on hiatus for a couple weeks, and so there's only like 8 episodes out or whatever, like 9, I think, actually.
Yeah, so it's not finished yet. I don't know why it went on hiatus. Actually,
I'm not sure either. Okay, I'm gonna say this. I think the first half was a lot stronger than the last half.
I agree.
It's really like box anime. It's like cube animating us right now as we see it.
Us.
Yeah, like it is. What is it? Sekai Surukado?
Yeah.
Or Sekai.
Yeah, Sekai Surukado.
Yeah, we're being Sekai Surukado'd. Like, how is it that this guy keeps making these really interesting, like, first acts, and then completely flubs the last 2? What?
Just he should make the concept, make the first, like, you know, bits,
right, and leave it to somebody
and then
else.
Just hand it off to someone who really likes the project.
Yeah. Like, okay, like, all of the stuff that is good about the show kind of dips in the second half. I don't know what it is, but like. All of the, like, you know, interesting character drama, the maturely written characters, the, like, oh, maybe this is like an interesting philosophical question. It all goes out the window in the second half. It's just like, okay, it's bad. I mean, you know it's bad. We're gonna murder, like, the one other character. Like, there's like 3 characters in the show combined. Like, if you count the main character, the, like, his assistant, and then, like, if you jumbled the last 3 dudes who, like, really want to have sex with him, like, into, like, one character, like, they count as one character, and they all die. They're, like, spoilers, everyone except the main character pretty much dies, so all of the stakes go out the window.
Well, and then it becomes like, ooh, we really gotta get her now.
Yeah. And then to like sort of reamp them, they talk about his family a lot, and I suspect that they're gonna like, I don't know, kill his family or whatever.
I'm very concerned about the family.
Waiting for it. But yeah, I don't know. It everything that was interesting to me in the first half, like the directing, the voice acting, completely gone out the window. Like I don't know where it went, but we're just phoning it in now, and it's not that interesting. I don't really care anymore.
They freaking decided to like go to another country, and I understand they're gonna make it like an international like
right. It's like a global incident, like a global ideological attack.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not invested anymore. I don't know.
I think there were better ways to handle it, and there were better ways to handle the idea of what does it mean to like have challenging ideas in your society, because it's whatever the like depiction of that would look like, it is not this. Like this is not it. Like let me tell you, it is unfortunately just kind of, I don't know, I don't see what the point is anymore, you know? Like, they've thrown all the stakes out the window. It seems like nothing's really happening anymore.
And they did it so sloppily, too. Like, I was shocked. And it feels like, oh, it was supposed to be super shocking because, ooh, the bad guy won. But it didn't feel well executed, like, at all.
It didn't feel like anything, right? It's just like, oh, whoops, she's dead. Now we gotta watch her be killed on a live stream, because that's what we do. I don't like the way they took that. I fundamentally disagree with how they wrote the last half of this story.
Yeah, and it sucks because the first half is so well done, and it keeps ramping up and up and up, and you're like, oh my god, I'm getting more and more invested. The pacing was really good.
Yeah, it hit. You know what?
God.
It hits the point where the assistant dies, and that's when they took the hiatus, and then the pacing is gone.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not coming back. Where is it?
It's not coming back. Where did it go?
Where did it go? I'm trying to find it, but I can't. It bites off way more than it can chew, is I think the way that I would put it.
Yeah, I think if they had focused it more internally, I don't know what they're going to do with this worldwide stuff. Maybe it'll be great, but I have a feeling that it might not be. Like a strong feeling. Like
here's the thing. I understand like the idea of it, because it is like, it's like somebody took like an idea that could be interesting and then like completely flubbed it, because this idea of what does it mean to have bodily autonomy is interesting. It is an interesting philosophical question. It is not interesting when you use that to then say like, okay, and spoiler and content warnings, we're going to talk about suicide, but what does it mean to have bodily autonomy? Does that mean you should legally be allowed to commit suicide? Is an interesting question.
Yes.
Obviously, we as a society have deemed, well, suicide is bad.
Right.
But the question is why, right?
Right.
Like, is it a holdover from Christianity or religion? Is it because we fundamentally must privilege life over death? It is a question that does have philosophical ramifications.
Yes.
And at the same time, it's not, you can't use that as like your big thing if you're not gonna actually talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is the big problem I have is he poses the question.
Yeah.
And then, instead of answering that question, he just uses it to segue to something completely different.
I agree 100%.
He's like,
yes.
What if a society suddenly made it legal to commit suicide?
Yes.
Which is kind of weird to me, because it's like, okay, suicide being illegal is not like that good of a deterrent for suicide in the first place, but that's not what we're here to talk about, right? It is like, what does it mean to have bodily autonomy? But then the question gets thrown out the window. He's just like, okay, but they're being murdered because this woman is psychologically manipulating them into suicide. It's not suicide then, it's a murder.
It becomes like versus like an ideological question. It then turns into a like trauma drama about this.
Right.
Like making the main character suffer as much as possible and traumatizing him as much as possible, and like fueling his venge quest against this specific woman so that he goes crazy over her.
It is no longer a philosophical question.
Yeah.
It is no longer a discussion. It is no longer a discourse or a dialogue or a dialectic about what it means to commit suicide, what that means.
Yep. Yeah.
Because, you know, if we actually were going to talk about that, we would talk about why people want to commit suicide. And then you would have to address, well, it's because, you know, material conditions of people are so fucking awful, right? And then you're like, wait a minute, capitalism is bad. Oh, damn. Anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and then Shinzo Abe would just, like, knock on your door and be like, hey,
right. And then
babies.
it becomes... it becomes like her trying to question him, like, what is justice, what is good or evil, which I understand because of his name. His name is about justice, but it does it so, I feel like, not as like, if this was written by like Naoki Urasawa, who does such a great job with handling these kinds of things,
right,
I wouldn't complain, because he would do it methodically and so well, and that would be that. And the focus would not be lost. It wouldn't transform from this thing to that thing in a nonsensical fashion. It would proceed in a way that you can actually have a thoughtful discussion about the question being presented, not shift the question entirely from one interesting thing to something that I wasn't really invested in the first place, but now I guess I have to be because everyone else is dead. So this is the only thing that's left.
I am entirely confused about why it set itself up like some kind of moral philosophical discussion, but then became a spy thriller.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Why is it suddenly about international, like, an international conspiracy where this woman is just gonna murder everyone in the world by convincing themselves to commit suicide? Like, if her character was more interesting, maybe we could have a discussion about, like, what is good, what is justice, because those are interesting questions. It is not an interesting question if you ask, what is justice? I don't think murder is bad. Like, are you kidding me? You cannot say in the first half of your show, you cannot set up in Act 1, what is bodily autonomy? And then in Act 2 say, fuck bodily autonomy, murder is good. That's not interesting. Yeah. It's not.
Yeah. Like, I get the segue in terms of, like, oh, suicide shouldn't be allowed because it's bad. And then you then segue into what is bad? What does it mean to be bad? And then she goes and kills someone in front of this boy's face and is like, oh, what is evil? What is evil? Ah, ha, 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 ha. I'm going to make you find out.
Like, I'm going to make a bunch of people kill themselves.
Yeah.
And then what? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand this whole, like, I don't know, because I might have been able to excuse it if, like, the production team seemed like it was into the idea, but they're really not. They just don't care. All of the shots are so flat and so uninteresting.
Oh yeah, I feel like after that hiatus or whatever, it just dropped off completely because
they maybe they spent the entire hiatus discussing how do we make this good. This novel sucks.
Yo, I'm so curious what happened during that hiatus. Like, did they just go on holiday or what? Or did they like have a serious like, yo, we gotta address how we're gonna treat the rest of the show kind of thing? We can't have another Cube anime.
We can't have another Cube anime. Whoops, we cubed it.
We cubed it. Oh
well. Whoops. I'm so utterly baffled by the arc that the show has taken, where it has gone from this like very interesting philosophical mystery thriller
Yeah.
to what is happening? Why? And the fact of the matter is, we don't even really see anything happening.
Yeah.
Nothing is actually happening, despite things happening. I don't...
Anymore,
it's so
anyway.
boring.
At
I'm
first
so
it was great.
bored.
Yeah, but now it's boring. Exactly. At first it was so exciting, and there was suspense, and there's like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? And you were following the characters, and you understood their actions. And now it's like, okay, well, I'm just waiting for the next crazy thing to happen from this lady. How's she gonna heck up his life now?
Yeah, this is...
That's not interesting.
Babylon is such a bizarre show. Because it had the potential to be good, but it seems like this
for it.
Seems like this novelist is really letting us down again. Or maybe the novel is better. I kind of doubt it for some reason. This is 2 for 2, bud.
You had two
Two
chances.
for 2. You had 2 chances. 2 little chances. Okay. I think that's enough. I don't think Babylon deserves any more discussion. It's not worth it.
I'm sad. I'm disappointed. I wanted it to be so good.
it was looking to be good, and then it wasn't.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Okay.
Yeah.
So, we will not be talking about Beastars because it is a Netflix jail, which is a shame because I really wanted to watch it. I know a lot of people really like it.
Mm-hmm.
We will not be talking about Carol and Tuesday, even though the whole thing has been released. Mostly because I have not finished it yet. I've only seen the first half. It's very good, but we're going to do a whole episode on it later when it comes out. So we said we would do that. We're going to do it. We will see you then. And you watched Psycho Pass Season 3. You finished it.
I did. I don't know if it's finished yet. Because I'm actually only halfway through episode 8, but each episode is a doubleheader.
Okay.
So, as of right now, they've only released through episode 8. And so far, like, the whole first half, 2/3 of the anime, I guess, if it's a 12 episode, is like kind of janky, but vaguely interesting. And then it has this like culminating episode that, unlike other anime,
I was gonna say, was it a disappointment? It sounds like it wasn't.
It actually came together, and I was like,
oh my
"Yo!"
god. Are you saying that there are competent writers in the world?
Oh my
god. I can't believe it.
Was mostly competent because, like I said, the first part of this anime the season was like, I don't know, it was okay. But now I was like, yo, this is really interesting because it picks up on really key plot points from the first season that, if, you know, you would obviously have watched them if you're watching season 3, that now you're like, yo, what's gonna happen with these new characters? And so I am a lot more invested than when I started, which is great.
Wow.
Because I feel like this season, the season's anime, like episode 7/8 is like the turning point for a lot of these shows.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's really when you see someone bear their true colors.
Yeah, so I'm hoping it'll keep getting better. I don't know. Like I said, it's still relatively janky, not gonna lie. I feel like the first season was definitely way more cleanly executed in terms of how well it told the story. But I'm excited because it's going in a direction I was not expecting. So I've been enjoying it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. The anime that I watched that you didn't was Cautious Hero.
Yeah.
The hero is overpowered but overly cautious, I think is the English title. This show is actually really good. Like, no joke, I legitimately think this might be the sleeper hit of the season. I mean, partially because it's not really on any streaming platform aside from, like, Hulu, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, I think the subbed version is only on Hulu.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, it's a big yikes. Anyway, so Cautious Hero is an isekai show.
Yes.
And we all know how I feel about that.
Yes.
At this point, it is 2020. maybe we should be done with them.
But then you would have nothing to watch, Soupy.
Yeah, evidently, yeah. Oh no, I would be free from my eternal prison. How awful. Okay, here's the thing about Cautious Hero is I think it might actually be one of the best isekai that have come out in the last couple seasons. Because it is a lot closer to Konosuba on the isekai spectrum, but it is actually really funny. Like, it's legitimately entertaining. All the jokes are really funny. And it is actually good. Like, the story is well written. The characters are well written. It's pretty sharp writing wise. Like, it's actually like the characters have characterization to them. They have character arcs. They have nuances to them in a way that a lot of shows really don't. Because there's a twist. A couple, like right near the end, there's a twist. And spoilers for this show, you have my blessing to watch it at this point. So, you know, if you don't want to listen to me talk about the spoilers, you know, skip ahead like 10 minutes or whatever. 5 minutes probably. Okay, so Cautious Hero is about a hero that is summoned to an isekai world, but is overly cautious. And it's funny because it's basically like this bureau of gods that handle different worlds, like this multiverse, and they're ranked depending on their difficulty. And this one goddess to be, she's not a fully fledged goddess yet, gets assigned an S-ranked difficulty world where everything sucks. And they're all the enemies are super overpowered, but she chooses the hero with like the highest stats because she finds him or whatever. And it turns out that he's just way too cautious. I mean, it's the title of the show. Like, he goes to a shop and he's like, I'm gonna buy 50 potions. He goes to like an armor smith and it's like, I bought 3 swords and 4 sets of armor just in case. Right? And that's like the central gag of the show, is that he keeps training. Except no. I'm calculating, like 80% of the way through the show, there's a twist where you learn that the reason he's so cautious is because the goddess that he was reincarnated to was actually a party member from one of the previous worlds where she died. Because the hero has been isekai'd a second time. So this is his second time. And their memories are erased, but he remembers, because he used to be this hero that was like, oh, don't worry, I'm really good at fighting, so everything will work out. Like, I'm the hero. I'll like do heroic shit, right? Yeah. And it gets his fucking, like, she's pregnant, so she's basically his wife. Like, gets his wife killed. She dies. So basically you realize that everything about it is like he just trains so hard because this regret at not having prepared enough is like embedded deep into his mind, even though he doesn't have his memories. And the amazing thing about it is that it turns one of the central jokes of the show into a legitimately impactful moment. And like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I was amazed at how much I actually cared at that moment. I was like, wait, what? I care about this? You compromised me?
That's like Gintama levels of like being compromised.
It is absolutely Gintama levels of compromise. Like, I was like, no way. Like, come on.
No.
I'm feeling emotional over this. Except it actually legitimately hits really hard because I think the writer understands how good comedy works, right? Yes. Where it's like that Princess Bride thing where it is like, it's funny until the moment that it isn't, right? Yeah. The joke of, you know, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. It's funny until it isn't. Yeah. Right? And that's what it felt like. It completely turned the show on its head, where for a moment it has a legitimate emotional moment that it is allowed to hang on to, that it is allowed to build up to. And it's really well done. Like, it actually legitimately is, because you learn that he just trains all the fucking time. He just trains so much. Like every time, like between fights, he's just like, okay, take me to the goddess realm where time moves more slowly so that I can train more. But then you realize he was basically done training the first time he did that. He hit max stats, but he kept training because even though his stats wouldn't go up and his skills were maxed out, he still had to feel prepared. And suddenly the joke where he's like, oh, he's not actually that helpful because he keeps training or whatever, but he'll get the job done at the end of the day, becomes this moment with emotional gravitas because it's been built up over the entire series. It's actually a really well done turn. And I'm legitimately surprised at how impactful it was when, like, you know, he's like, he basically sacrifices himself, right? Like, he has to sacrifice himself to like kill the demon lord. He uses this technique that essentially trades his life for the life of the boss. It's like using like self-destruct or whatever. But then she like realizes and unlocks her goddess powers, which is illegal, by the way. You can't help the hero in that way, and she uses it to heal him. But then the Demon King breaks out of the thing, so he has to do it again, and he dies. Like, he dies.
Whoa!
There's some other stuff that happens at the end that I won't tell you about. But needless to say, the possibility of a season 2 is possible. But even knowing that moment is so impactful, because even though you know at your heart, like, this is like a show, like this is an isekai show, he's gonna not be actually dead, it's still like, damn. hot fucking damn, because it's like that one moment when like both characters have full knowledge of everything that's happened, and one is still just like gonna slip away, like there's like nothing that can be done about it, and it's like so amazing,
bro.
So I was legitimately surprised at how good the writing was in Cautious Hero, because I had never before felt like someone like, it is so rare in anime for a comedy anime to turn in this way and become serious, and like legitimately impactfully serious too. Like, not just like whatever. It's like, it's a serious moment or whatever. It's like right. Because shows like Konosuba kind of completely allied this, where instead of having those dramatic moments, they just skip over them completely for comedy, and then the thing that makes you emotionally fulfilled is both the relationship of the characters and the moments when they all work together. It's not a dramatic moment, like it's not a tragic moment in the way that Cautious Hero is. It is a triumphant moment where it's like the like bonds of adventure that happen, where like, you know, all of the improbable things come together, and he's just like, all right, you shitheads, do your one shithead thing that you can do, and they do it and defeat the boss, right?
Yeah.
That feels really good to watch, because that's what because it's just good adventure, you know?
Yeah.
Right? But Cautious Hero is so different because they allied all of the stuff about, like, they basically allied all of the danger in the way that an isekai does, except it does it to make sure that the danger at the end is impactful. And I've never seen an isekai show do that. You know? Like, most isekai shows are in one of two camps. Which is, the hero is invincible. Like, the isekai hero is invincible, like, functionally invincible, so that the show does not have to, like, concern itself with his safety.
Right.
Or he's fragile to the point of like having to like scrape by. That's like, you know, like ReZero and stuff, right? Like, and to some extent Konosuba. But because Cautious Hero falls into the former camp until it doesn't, it actually is like a good use of the trope. Because it understands why that trope exists, and then it subverts it. And it builds it up over the whole season too. Because, like, in some ways, I think Cautious Hero is kind of like this. It's almost like a retributive, like, this is what like an RPG could be. Because it's there's a moment pretty early on when they meet the dragon twins, or they're not twins, they're like two different people from they're dragon kin, so they have like dragon powers or whatever. But the RPG setup, like the setup of the story, quote unquote, is that one of them is meant to be part of your party. Like he transforms and he gets special dragon powers. The other doesn't, because she's meant to be sacrificed to forge a sword that will kill the Demon King. And what the main character says to that is, nah, bro. And that's kind of cool, actually. Like, I legitimately thought that was kind of an interesting, like, idea of, well, what if you just wanted to say, fuck you, no, to, like, the, like, bullshit that happens in an RPG. And that was kind of cathartic, to be honest. I'm like, oh, good, we're not gonna, like, Aerith this. So I thought like Cautious Hero legitimately is kind of the sleeper hit of the season. Like it is an isekai. People who watch a lot of isekais will probably watch it.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie, I was really, really surprised at how well it landed. And that being said, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, I think it's just such a shame that it came out during the deluge of isekai.
Yeah, I mean, it only exists because of the deluge of isekai.
Right, and that's the quandary that I'm feeling right now. Is like, I think it sucks that it came out during the deluge, but also maybe it wouldn't exist because of the deluge, right? If
it would not exist otherwise.
Really,
what you should do is you should just get your isekai recommendations from me. I'm gonna probably check out Ascendance of a Bookworm and report back to you about that. But I will say this about Cautious Hero.
Yeah.
My one real complaint with it is that they were so obviously working with a shoestring budget. They have like zero money. Like they don't have an ending song for the first like 2 episodes.
No.
And then the one that they do have eventually is just like CG animated. They clearly did not have time or money.
Feels bad.
But I will say this in Cautious Hero's defense, it actually looks really good.
Good.
You can tell that it does not have money, but you can tell that they're working pretty well within those constraints. Like, for what it's worth, the moments, like, they choose which moments to animate really well. Like, they do visual comedy really well with the show. Especially with the main character, who's the goddess. Her facial expressions are so funny, and her movements are so funny, and her voice acting just knocks it out of the park. But again, like the actual animation itself is not stellar.
Okay.
But it doesn't look bad, actually, for how constrained they must have been, like the team.
Right.
You can tell you can simultaneously tell it had no budget, and they did everything that they could within that no budget.
Well, good for them. Sometimes you gotta work with what you got.
Right.
Awesome. Well,
okay.
I might have to check it out because that sounds great.
Yeah, I actually recommend that you might actually like it. Now that I've spoiled the twist for you, it's not going to be as like dramatic when it happens.
I love that kind of stuff.
But I think you would actually enjoy it. I think you would have a good time with it.
Yeah.
All right. Even though we've been going for 2 hours already, my God, we still have to talk about anime of the year. So we're gonna pick top 3s and then honorable mentions. Technically, you can mention up to 3. I'm going to because I'm a bastard.
Yeah, you suck.
Okay. Why don't you give me your first one?
I put down first Yakusoku no Neverland, Promised Neverland, because I think that it kind of refreshed the horror anime genre for me.
I
haven't had a good horror anime in a long time, and so that just like brought me right back in it, and I thought it was super well paced. It had weird CG, but that's okay. I'm really, 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 really looking forward to where the story goes. And I bought the artist's art book and everything.
That's fair. I will say this about Promised Neverland is that it does have some legitimately good like tense moments.
Yeah,
like it knows how to build tension really well, and the directing of the like shots is good all the way through. Because a lot of times, and we've noted this, a lot of times you will have like really interesting, like cool directing in the first 2 or 3 episodes, and then it just kind of becomes an anime.
Yeah.
Which is to say, it's like really flat. But I think Promised Neverland is actually different in that regard. I think the shot composition is always interesting in that show.
Yeah.
Consistently. Okay. My first anime of the year is gonna be Promare. I have to mention
You
it.
cheated. You did an anime movie.
Yeah, so that was why I was initially thinking I would put it in honorable mention, but like legitimately I think that Promare is probably one of the best anime that came out this year.
I mean, of course.
Yeah, obviously higher production value. It's Studio Trigger doing whatever the fuck it wants to do. It has perfected the Studio Trigger formula to an unbelievable degree of polish. It has loads upon loads of like visual information that is being sent at you. It's a fast movie, but at the same time, it's a dense movie visually, and it conveys a lot of meaning to you in very little time. And it's just it's so much fun to watch. Like, I had more fun watching Promare than anything else this year. And, you know, a lot of things came out this year. Like, Knives Out came out this year. That was an awesome movie. Parasite came out this year. A lot of it was very fun until it wasn't. But Promare just has, like, this unique, like, you know, sort of energy to it that cannot be replicated by you know, studios that aren't Trigger. So that's why I put Promare up here. Plus, you know, Leo and Gallo are my faves. Super gay for each other. They're boyfriends. They kiss on screen. Yeah. So what was your next one? Actually, you know what? Our next one is the same.
It's the same. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
It is Mob Psycho Season 2.
Season 2.
Of course, we had to mention this because we loved the heck out of it. It was so beautifully animated. Such a good story. And oh my god, I'm gonna go freaking rewatch it because that's what I did with the first season. And I enjoyed this one just as much.
Yeah.
If not more.
I think the Mob Psycho Season 2 is the perfect culmination of everything that's good about Mob Psycho Season 1. It builds on everything that happens in Season 1 perfectly. Yep. Like, I would say that in my opinion, like from my perspective, the writing and the animation are perfect. Like, they're perfect in the way that, you know, I just cannot find a way that I would improve either of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
The animation style is like, it's so perfect in its own right. Like, the animation is so unique because it's basically like one's art style, but then they like just gave it the like kind of love works with like Studio Bones just gave it the love works. And then like they also include lots of other different kinds of animation like they did in Season 1. Like, most obviously like the oil on glass animation that like one person in the fucking world can do or whatever, right? It's like, I mean, come on, you gotta give them chops. Like,
heck yeah.
No anime in like recent years has been so daring about the like idea of what it means to do to be like visual animation. Like, it's so creative, it's so amazing. And for a serialized television show, that's so impressive.
It seriously is.
It's functionally perfect, and the writing for the characters is also functionally perfect.
Oh, so good.
It is so human. It's so nuanced. It's so well done. It's so heartwarming. It is the perfect example of what a character arc should look like. Mob's character arc over the course of this series of like Season 1 and Season 2 is functionally perfect. It's amazing. I'm not going to get into it any further than that. I highly recommend that everyone watches Mob Psycho because I love it dearly. It's probably become one of my favorite anime of all time. Definitely in my top 5. Easily in my top 5. Maybe even in my top 3. Who knows? I guess I'm next, or maybe...
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So my third pick is Demon Slayer. it was actually a very difficult decision. I was waffling a lot between Demon Slayer and Sara Zanmai. But I had to choose Demon Slayer because of all of the, like, every aspect of Demon Slayer is just so good. Like, the amazing moments. Like, Demon Slayer gave us some of the best animated fight scenes in televised anime, period. Like, of all time. It's that good. Like, I don't know what the hell UFO Table is doing over there, but my God, I don't know. I don't understand how they do it. Everything they do looks so good. And it's plus, like, obviously I've expounded upon why I love Demon Slayer so much. It takes the, like, idea of what a shonen is and makes it about, like, something else. It says, like, your strength can be kindness, and we will not forget your humanity. And that, to me, is very important. Like, the monsters have human hearts. That's very important to me. And even though we're fighting, this is mercy, and this is care. And that, to me, is very important. And the fact that we got that in something that is now, like, a mainstream, like, highly popular shonen anime is mind-boggling to me, and I'm absolutely in love with it. The moments are really good. It's paced really well. I'm so excited for more. Like, I am aching for more, and so I had to put it on. I had to put it on my list. Train
arc.
Okay, your turn.
My next one technically started airing in the fall, but I was given the okay since it finished airing in 2019.
Yep.
It is Run with the Wind, or Kaze ga Tsuku Fuiteru. It's probably one of my favorite sports anime to come out in recent years after Haikyuu.
Man, I really wanted to finish this show, actually. I never got around to finishing it. Mostly because we stopped watching it together.
Yeah. I mean, the way that it wraps up is, like, so freaking, my heart. I think they handle each of the characters really well. Like, there is a point in the middle where you're like, okay, yeah, nothing's really happening with some of the less important characters, but then it comes back around with the force.
Yeah. Good shit.
Yeah, so it's really, I love it. I love the way that it's paced because, it's a running anime, but also it's actually a really good story.
Okay. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. For those of you who like Haikyuu, this is definitely slower paced, but it's really, really well done.
I mean, it's about college boys, so it should be slower paced. It's just adult Haikyuu.
Exactly.
It's just adult Haikyuu.
Adult Haikyuu.
Oh, wait, hang on. So what you're telling me is that there's writers in the world that know how to stick a second, like the second and third acts?
What do you mean?
Are you saying that there's people that know how to write character arcs and satisfying ends to stories?
That, like, you can feel, like, even better about the story by the time it ends than when it begins?
Damn.
What?
Obviously, I joke about this, but it is very hard to end your things. I understand completely.
Yes, it is.
But also, that guy is a novelist. He has no fucking excuse. That's his job. His job is just to write books good. And he's not doing it.
Make good idea and run away.
That's not entirely fair. He might actually be writing good books. I just somewhat doubt it. Like, just a little bit. Personally. Anyway, good. Nice.
Yeah.
Let's move on to honorable mentions. Let's just do them all in one.
Sure.
So you start with yours and I'll just...
My honorable mention is Vinland Saga. The only reason why it's an honorable mention and not like a main mention or whatever is because I technically haven't finished it, so I don't know how the rest of it goes, but what I have watched so far is so freaking fantastic that I have to mention it.
That is what I've heard. And I absolutely I think it would be an injustice not to watch it.
Right.
So I will. I promise that I will.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of things that I put on honorable mention because I haven't finished Carol and Tuesday, I have no idea what the fuck happens in the second half of Carol and Tuesday because I haven't watched it. But the first half was very, very lovely, and I imagine that it's not gonna end up with like them kissing, but that's just how it be. I mean,
as long as it doesn't get cubed, I'll be happy.
As long as it doesn't get cubed, I'll be happy. It seems like people still enjoyed the latter half of it. There's like one or two things about it that might be questionable, but overall, it's basically like a huge shame that Netflix decided to release it to whenever the fuck goes, because I see like hardly anybody talking about it. I'm not kidding. It's so hard for me to find people who are talking about this show. Mm-hmm. Which is wild. This show is so good. I know
one other person aside from you who's actually watched all of it.
This show is so good. And it doesn't deserve to be in Netflix jail. I mean, it's out now, so it doesn't fucking matter. Just go watch Carol Tuesday. Just watch it, please. Do it for my sake. Like I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. Okay.
It's okay. Well, we'll talk about it for a whole episode. It's fine.
Okay. So other things. We all watched these, but my other two honorable mentions, because I cannot help myself and I love anime. I put Sara Zanmai on here. It was very heavily in contention with Demon Slayer for being on the top 3 proper. Sara Zanmai to me is an amazing show. It's beautiful. Yeah. It is like beautiful to look at. The animation is just gorgeous. It is one of the most interesting, creative, weird, honest, emotional show. Like it's a show about boys being emotional and relying on each other. Like you know, like
the little bit gay.
Oh, definitely a lot of bit gay. And honestly, like even though they didn't get like together in the end, like they weren't dating, it doesn't stop the fact that kid is gay as fuck. Like they literally kissed. He literally thinks about him all the time. Like there is no gayer that one can get without just like being a couple on screen. Like I would like to say this about gay anime, which is that a lot of gay anime does not end up with two characters dating.
Yeah.
And that is okay. I like it when they date. But that is not a prerequisite. It's not like they become gayer somehow. But at the same time, it would be nice once in a while. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But like, you know, Sara Zanmai is like actually probably the gayest one could be depicted on screen without it just sort of devolving into like they're having sex. Which they're like 14, so like don't think about that, please. I don't want to go to jail. I'm sure you don't want to go to jail. Like, don't be gross. But yeah, like it is to me, Sara Zanmai is like this amazingly perfectly, like, you know, it's done in 11 episodes. It's just done. Every aspect of it is great. The singing is amazing. The dancing is awesome. All of the emotional stuff that happens, you're like, damn. I highly recommend watching Sara Zanmai. It was one of the highlights of the year for me, for sure.
Yes.
I just am a slut for good fighting. And so Demon Slayer has beat it out, unfortunately. The last one on my honorable mention list is Hoshiai no Sora. I wish that I could put it in my top 3, but obviously there's a lot of issues with it. Some of which might be resolved, some of which might not, right? So as it stands, Hoshiai no Sora deserves to be mentioned because it's good. like, because it is a good story.
It's definitely worth watching.
It's worth watching.
And I hope it gets a continuation.
It does that gay shit real good.
Gays.
And it's funny because it is legitimately important that kind of representation is happening on screen in a way that is...
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh.
In a way that is like, you know, this, where they just talk about it.
They're have a reasonable discussion about it.
They have a conversation about it. It's honest. There's no jokes about it. They're just like, yeah, I mean, it's just like that. It just be like that.
Yeah, and it's respectful. There's no, like, I don't know. It's not overly dramatic or anything. Right. It just is.
The shining moment it's like the shining moment of the show to me. And part of the reason why is because it is a moment that is like singularly away from all the trauma and all the tragedy.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because so much of queer fiction is tragic. And so much of it has to be like entangled with trauma, because that's what it's like to be queer in a heteronormative society.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know, man. Sometimes it's just nice to have like these characters are gay, they kiss each other and they do fun stuff. And obviously there's a lot of not fun stuff that happens in this show.
Mm-hmm.
But the queerness is kind of separated from that. And I really appreciated that to like this show is dramatic as is. I don't need sad queers in it.
Mm-hmm.
I just need people struggling with their identity. Like, I don't know. The fact that it's not tied up in the trauma to me, that it's a separate thing, is so important to me.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate how they handled it. I think that scene alone could just win the year.
Yeah, honestly, scene of the year. Easy
scene
clap.
Scene of the year. Clap, clap.
I mean, it's like that one scene in that cheering anime where she comes out and there's like a coming out thing,
that's
right?
exactly what it reminded me of. Yes.
I just remembered that I was like, man, that scene was really good.
Yeah.
This scene better, but like, you know, holy
it's okay.
crap.
That means we're progressing.
No, I was gonna say, like, actually, I joke about that, but Hoshiai no Sora set such a high bar. Like, where am I gonna see that in any other piece of media, period, not just in anime?
It can only go downhill.
Like let's put this into context.
Yeah.
Hoshiai no Sora has a frank, honest, respectful 5-minute discussion on gender nonconformity.
Yes.
The Rise of Skywalker has a 0.3 second lesbian kiss on screen that you can't even really see their faces. It happens right at the end of the movie for about 0.3 seconds before it just pans away from them. I appreciate incidental gayness, but also do fucking better. You have no excuse.
All right, well.
So yeah, that's our motto for 2020. Do fucking better. Because I'm watching.
This is like, what? Were we watching Babylon where the license plate said do
Oh my
better?
God, yes! By far the best part of Babylon in the second act is the fact that they pan to America and the Secret Service car, it just says America, and the license plate just says do better. And I was dying. I was like, God damn. I wonder if they know what they're doing there. Because honestly, right now at this very current moment, on the evening of the 7th of January 2020, I'm really feeling that license plate. I'm really feeling that license plate.
Do better.
Do fucking better. Anyway. Let's wrap up, because we've been at it for a really long time, and it has been such a long time since. You know what? Actually, all of our end or beginning of year episodes always end out like really.
Yes, they
long.
always end up like this.
But luckily, the episode's going up on Sunday, so I'm gonna have a little bit more time to edit it, which is nice.
Woo!
Woo! So obviously some housekeeping stuff, because it is the first episode of the year. We have a lot of exciting stuff planned for you this year.
Yay.
We have moved a lot of the Patreon stuff down one tier, so a shout out is now a $5 per month benefit. So that'll be super fun. We have moved the like content vault to like the $1 tier. It's a lot of stuff. The Discord server is now open to the public. I'll leave a link to that in the podcast link dump. And yeah, so just like come chat with us because like it's fun. It's fun. I enjoy talking to like the people who are most definitely just your friends.
That's fine, but there are a lot of people in there that are absolutely just your friends too.
I was gonna say that's because the other half of them are my friends, and so thank you so much for the support.
Yeah, but there are people in there that actually came for the podcast, which is freaking fantastic.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. So, yeah, for the first podcast of the year, we're gonna have a lot of shout-outs. Let's just go through them.
Big shout-outs! Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so our first patron is Frostfall. Thanks, bud. $10 a month.
Thank you.
Killing
oh my
it.
God, you're so crazy. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
you're the OG.
He the OG.
The OG shout-out person.
Yeah.
There you go. Next is Cheru or Sheru. I don't actually know. Do you know? Cheru? Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure this is your friend. So
yeah.
thanks, Cheru.
Hi, Cheru.
Shout out to my friend Shandao.
Thanks.
Thanks to Claire and to Magpie Mirror Test.
Magpie?
Yeah, I see you in the Discord sometimes. Cool.
Magpie came because of the podcast. I did not know Magpie beforehand.
I think they design games, like tabletop games.
Yeah.
I think they might be friends with some of my other friends. I'm not 100% sure. I'm really bad at connecting people to names and faces and things that they do. Anyway, I joke, but like for a long time, the only way that I could identify people in Poke was because I knew their character. I was like, okay, this person is that character.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And last of all, thanks to Figure 4. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, you.
Bud. If you want me to use your government name, send us a message. But I'm
spicy.
I'm pretty sure you prefer this one. So thanks, Figure 4, for the support.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
So much.
It helps us to keep up with upkeep costs, and once I'm not reliant on the parasite upon our society that is Adobe Suite, I'll be in a much better place with that. But
it's okay, you're figuring it out.
But yeah, other than that, we talked about this, but we're gonna move the podcast release date to Sunday. It just makes more sense for our schedules.
Yeah.
Personally, now that I think about it, I don't even know why it wasn't Sunday to begin with. I'm kind of a fool. I'm kind of a fool. That's all I'm saying. Oh, I know why. It was because when we started the podcast, which was 2 freaking years ago.
Woo!
When we started the podcast, my weekend was entirely booked with D&D. Like, entirely booked.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, like Saturday, Sunday night, I did D&D, and I didn't want to I didn't want to edit those days because I was also like already exhausted on those days.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So anyway, that's cool. Yeah, just keep up with the Twitter to see what we're up to. If we have anything to announce. Renu, what's the status on those postcards?
I have an idea for how I want to draw the new idea.
I am going to message you every day until you make these. Jesus Christ. Wowee. Anyway, I think we might be done. I think that's the end of the podcast. I think. I hope we didn't miss. Oh, no, it's not the end of the podcast. Our opening is by Scotty Network and our ending is by Takumakata. I knew I forgot something. I got it. Who are you? Where can we find you on the internet?
I am Renu, also known as Swan. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook and I guess all that stuff at SwanDrawn. You can find me on Instagram at swan.drawn. I am kind of floating right now because it's after the holidays and I got to work on postcards. So
yeah, time ceases to exist in the period between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really start completely until like mid-January.
Right, like just kind of getting back into the flow of things. So that's what I've been up to. Maybe I'll stream making the postcards, and that will make me do it.
Oh, that would be cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
The 6 days between Christmas and New Year's. That's Jesus's time. That's time for Jesus. That time belongs to Jesus. You can't take it from him.
All right, what about you, buddy?
You have me all places at Literal Soup. If I'm on a place, it's there. Although, actually, probably the most efficient thing to do would just be to go to my Twitter page, because I do have a link, or a pinned tweet that has all my links on it. So that's basically like a digital business card. Actually, there are sites that do digital business cards, and I should probably make one.
Woo!
I should probably make a real business card. Huh.
Yeah!
Oh boy. I'm not gonna think about that for now. Anyway, thanks so much for listening.
Thank you.
See you next time.
See you next time.
It's almost the year of the rat.
Oh.
It's almost the year of the... I mean, technically it is if we wanted to go by the Western calendar, but...
No.
But it's the lunar calendar, so we have to go by
the lunar calendar.
Did you know I'm year of the rat?
Are you?
Yeah.
My dad is too.
Yeah, I'm year of the rat by a fun technicality, which is that I was born in January, which is before the lunar year turns over.
Yeah. Oh, so going by the lunar calendar, you're a year of the rat. But if you were to look up your number in Western whatever,
it would be the year
and have
of
it
the
translated,
ox.
It would be different.
Yes.
Right.
That's
fun.
I thought I was an ox for a long time. It turns out I'm a rat. But I also found out that some people believe that the year that your zodiac is an unlucky year, so that's not great.
How fun! You're gonna have a fun time.
It means I gotta squeeze out all the good stuff before the Lunar New Year comes around. It means that I'll just cram all the good stuff between then. Sounds good. I can do it.
Can you?
All right.
Sayonara. また明日ね。